mean, just like that, my stomach was up in my mouth. I mean, I didn't know what I was going to do. All of a sudden, this small computer plane going from Oklahoma City all the way down to Lawton, Oklahoma, dropped several hundred feet in altitude. It just went bam like that. I grabbed my seat and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what's going to go?" Of course, got to be cool. After all, I'm a Marine. I can't be showing my fear, but inside I'm like going, "Pa-pum, pa-pum, pa-pum, pa-pum." You know what? And then after everything settled down, all the people in the plane started looking at you. Now, this is just a very small plane. There wasn't a lot of people in there. But, we'd all been strangers and all that. Instantaneously, all of a sudden, all of us had something that bonded us together. All of a sudden, we weren't a bunch of strangers anymore. We'd gone through an experience together that unified us. And that is so true in our lives. When we go through things together, whether it's good or whether it's bad, we always come together. It could be a bad thing, waiting for a loved one to get out of a surgery or that's been in an accident and all the people gather together. It could be your cousin and your brother and your sister that haven't talked to each other in years and years and years, but you're there supporting somebody in your family or a loved one, and now all of a sudden you're together. It could be something glorious. It could be something like watching your kids play a football game, and they've had a tough season, and they've battled through, but they're playing for the championship, and at the end of the season, they win. Two dads that are always micromanaging the team, sitting in the stands, can't stand each other. But through the experience of that season, they come together and they're together. It's amazing watching people come together. Today I was working with another gentleman and two kids from my church, and we were all working together, helping to clean and move a friend of ours some things to a new residence. And while we were doing it, these two brothers that were working with us worked great together. Interestingly, their mom told me, these two guys, they're always squabbling with each other. But we didn't have a single problem with them the entire day because they were working towards a goal. Years and years ago, I heard a speaker talk about um, this very concept, and he talked about how that a central focus unifies a group of people. And this is how he illustrated. He took a cord, and with that cord, he tied a weight on it. And what he did was he took those two weights and he brought them together. And of course, it created slack. And when he did that, he said, you see, they didn't come together because they were forced together. But then what he did is he laid it out. And then from the center, he pulled up the cord, and the two ends with the weights on them came together. You see, when they were focused together at the same thing, they came together naturally. Hey guys, that's like we are when we're focused. So, here's my challenge. Each and every one of us, we need to focus on coming together, not going apart. Years ago, I lived in Iowa, and and we're talking many years ago, because I was in my early 20s, and a bunch of us got together and we started renting out a gymnasium, an elementary gymnasium, so that some of us could play basketball, some of us could play volleyball. Well, at that time, the big sport that was coming on strong, and it was still in its infancy, was two-man volleyball. And I love playing volleyball. But you know what? Two-man volleyball was a whole different thing. I loved two-man volleyball. The fellow that was my partner most of the time was a guy named Dan. And Dan was, 6'1", I think is what he was, 6'1", 6'2". Tall, lean guy, could jump up high, spike the ball. Well, me, I'm somewhat vertically challenged. But on a regular volleyball team back then, you had to rotate around and you'd had to be in the front row. You know, in regular volleyball, I was a liability if I was in the front row. Because folks, no matter how hard I tried, I was not gonna spike the ball. I might dink it over, but I'm not gonna slam it. On the other hand, Dan, if he had to dive down to get a ball, it ain't happening. But I'll tell you something. The nice thing about two-man volleyball was that it accentuated both of our abilities by giving us freedom. And we were unified together for the same goal, which was winning. I could, from my experience in martial arts and wrestling, I was, adept at diving for the ball, saving it, getting it over to Dan. Dan would take it, bam, knock it over there, hit score. You see, liabilities become assets when you're unified, and you gain a greater appreciation of it. So, guys, gals, remember, here's the deal. When we're out there and we see people different than us, instead of saying, hey, that person's different, I don't think they fit the normal thing for a volleyball player or a basketball player or a manager or a marketer or whatever it is. Instead of looking at them and saying what they can't do, say, I wonder how this person, with their individual gifts and abilities, might do this job effectively. That's the paradigm shift. Don Bono coming at you. Have a great night.